All of a Treble is a series of works they are sculptural, but they're also type-based and they're also musical instruments. It's based on walls where there is a certain motif. Usually it's a motif which is drawn on the wall, a little bit like wallpaper, and it's the motif that corresponds with the roller that produces the music. The specific work here is called Over Tremble, Conducted Lines, and you on the outer sides of the sculpture of the wall, you see these lines that correspond a little bit to how one constructs walls in concrete with using these wooden stripes, meaning in a sort of a low-end, low-profile way of doing it. And wherever the wooden stripes will meet, this is where a little bit of concrete seeps out. Now this roller is it's a vintage roller from the 18th century. Usually one would use different rollers, one for each color, to have a complete image, but I choose this roller because this one is very modern in a way. It's only made of horizontal lines. So the idea was to compose the comp only around the A tone, but it's made of many slight shifts, so it's microtonal. And it's everything around the A before it becomes another tone. And the idea is that somehow, from a metaphorical level, that the concrete in this place, but also in general in architecture, is a little bit like the A of construction, and how to play around the A of this construction. The work opposite is from another series called Untitled Species, and it's a series of diptychs where I'm combining a found image, etchings, prints, original prints from the late 17th, 18th century, which represent, in this case, mostly fish or marine species. When they would depict a species, they would always try to obviously fit it within the page where it would be printed. But now some of these species, anatomically, they cannot fit in that frame. Therefore, they would be bent beyond sometimes their anatomical possibility to be represented within that fixed idea, which was the frame. And I was interested in echoing this paradox into other sort of species, which is geopolitical notions, which is countries or other geopolitical notions, which are not necessarily countries per se. And of course, this produces tensions, which are not only tensions within the composition of the drawing, but are also, on a metaphorical level, these are also political tensions that it may create. Even only if, which is a composition which is based on the elegy for viola solo of Stravinsky, but it's a composition, but also a collaboration between two actors, two players, which is the Gérard Cosset, the musician who is playing the viola, but as well as a snail who is on his journey from the beginning of the bow to the very end. There is also within the elegy of Stravinsky, which also was one of the aspects why I chose this piece of music. There is a dialogue, a duality, because it's an elegy, it's like a monologue, but on the other side is almost continuously played on two strings. So there is a higher voice and a lower voice, and there is this in order to be able to stretch the music to accompany the full journey of the snail. This is what allows, within the composition of Stravinsky, it allowed Gérard Cosset to be able sometimes to bifurcate, to continue playing, to be playing like it was written in the score of Stravinsky, but then eventually continue playing only the upper voice. And then when he would see to adapt the length of the piece to the length of a journey. And when he would see that the snail was stalling or stopping, then come back to the lower voice and use the notes from the lower voice to encourage the snail to carry on. Haunted in the Doldrums is also, it continues a series of works. In this case, these drums, which are called Doldrums, they are snare drums where something has been reversed in the dynamic, because it's not the drumsticks that play the drum, but it's the drum skin that plays the drumsticks. This is a work that self-censors itself, because the very source of sound that triggers the reaction of the drumsticks cannot be heard because of the rat-tat of the drumsticks. There is some 30+ names which are part of the soundtrack of the piece. All these are people or different age and gender from Tanzania, people with albinism, who unfortunately they are very often hunted in the fake belief that their body parts could make people luckier or richer or more successful in their endeavors. We cannot hear those names, therefore it's a little bit like a musical instrument, but at the same time it's a piece of censorship, or at least that recalls a certain unresolved problem or situation. Day Still Night Again, we have again a pair, because the principle is very simple in a way. It's taking photographs of all the walls of that floor with all the birthmarks that concrete very often has, including maybe from a more archaeological point of view, like all the marks from the previous exhibitions on the walls of where works were hung. So all these marks photographed, and they are projected back into the walls. So and the principle is that these images on the walls, they go in and out of focus. There is a musical score, there is a musical events that bring them in and out of focus, and the surroundings, the walls, more than a construction, become like a skin. So it feels a little bit like the walls become like a very long, stretched drum skin. There is something very percussive about this piece. And so in the floor of Day Still Night Again, part of the audible sounds are saxophone sounds, which are also present in the film About. Time No Longer is a very long film, so in that sense it takes again the idea of a journey. But in this case, is a journey of an object, a musical object, an instrument, but more rather a playback instrument, a turntable, that is playing while it's spinning and in zero gravity and being adrift inside the International Space Station. I think the first trigger in my idea, before I choose the specific music of Messiaen, it's the story of Ronald McNair. Ronald McNair was an Afro-American astronaut, a very talented saxophone player as well, who would have been the first to record professionally a musical instrument in space in zero gravity. That would have been for a song that would be played or performed in Houston during one of his journeys. Unfortunately, that was not to happen because he was member of the crew of the Challenger, and we know of the disasters. So when I was thinking in what could be the music that this turntable would play, what would would be the soundtrack of an intention. After some research, that led me to the Quartet for the End of Times of Messiaen, and specifically the Abyss of the Birds, which had been first played by Akoka. When Messiaen composed this piece, he was a prisoner of war in a German camp, having been a French soldier, and he composed this piece in the conditions of being in a camp, not necessarily thinking of instruments, but thinking of the people who could play it, people that were with him in the camp. I was interested also in this. There is I believe, analogy between being incarcerated, but also being up there in space, because you are prisoner to a very highly designed device, which is, as we know, unfortunately can also be extremely fragile. That it was the case with the Challenger, and you are relying on that thing. But otherwise, you are very. I suspect you are very alone.